I am Samantha Mason, 30 years old and living the dream in my tiny but perfect downtown Philadelphia apartment. At least I was until last Sunday when my guardians dropped a bomb over roast chicken. "Your brother will live in your apartment," they announced like they were telling me the weather forecast. Their eyes dared me to object, but I just nodded and cut another piece of meat. Some battles are fought in the moment. Others require strategy. And sometimes you need to let a complete stranger open your door. If only they had asked first. Before I tell you this wild story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever had family members who think your boundaries are optional. Trust me, you will want to see how this unfolds. Growing up as the eldest Mason daughter meant one thing: responsibility. While other kids got allowances for existing, I nurtured, landscaped, and mentored my way through secondary school. By 18, I had saved enough for my first semester of community college. 2 years later, I transferred to Columbia College Philadelphia on partial scholarship, working nights at a coffee shop to cover rent in a shared apartment with 3 other girls. No one handed me anything. Amanda arrived 5 years after me. A surprise baby who instantly became the family treasure. Where I was practical, she was creative. Where I was cautious, she leaped without looking. And where I worked for everything, Amanda simply had to ask. It was cute when she was 5 and needed someone to build her dollhouse. Less cute at 25 when she needed someone to pay her rent again. The pattern began early. My 13th birthday party was downsized because Amanda had a dance recital the same weekend. My secondary school graduation dinner became a family discussion about which preschool would nurture Amanda's artistic talents. When I landed my first graphic design internship, the celebration lasted exactly 12 minutes before Mom remembered Amanda needed new soccer cleat. I adapted, learned to celebrate my wins privately, built a life away from the suburban Philadelphia neighborhood where my guardians still lived in the same 4-bedroom colonial they bought when I was 3. Their house remained frozen in time. My teenage bedroom converted to a crafting space while Amanda's room stayed pristine despite her moving out 3 years ago, or rather attempting to move out. The first apartment lasted 6 months until the roommate drama became too much. The second place ended when Amanda decided retail jobs were beneath her artistic temperament. The third apartment, the one she was now apparently being evicted from, had been a miracle of timing 8 months ago. I wonder if they ever had the rent conversation with Amanda, I thought while driving to our monthly family dinner. Probably not. My 1-bedroom apartment in Printers Row was my sanctuary. 650 square feet of hardwood floors, exposed brick, and carefully curated furniture. I had painted the walls myself, installed floating shelves for my book collection, and splurged on a real leather couch that took 4 months of saving. The building was a converted factory with high ceilings and huge windows that flooded the space with afternoon light, perfect for a graphic designer who appreciated good aesthetics. Every piece in my apartment told a story. The vintage drafting table I used as a desk came from an estate sale. The mid-century credenza held my record collection and the turntable I restored. Even my dishes were deliberately chosen. Heath ceramics in a soft blue that made my morning coffee ritual feel special. My guardians had visited exactly twice in the 3 years I lived there. Both times my mother had looked around with the tight smile that meant she was calculating how much everything cost and whether it was worth it. Now, sitting at their dining table with the same faded floral centerpiece they had used for a decade, I was answering the usual questions about my job at Vertex Creative. The warmth of childhood memories wraps around Samantha like a cozy blanket, but beneath that comfort lies a storm. She can almost taste the sweet apple pie, its scent filling the kitchen as her mother's hands expertly craft another family meal. Laughter rings out from the living room, a fortress of joy, yet a familiar tension gnaws at her heart when her mother's voice interrupts, demanding answers. With every clink of cutlery, it feels like the clock ticks louder, counting down her childhood, her desire to break free from mounting expectations amplifying with each second. Samantha's mind drifts back to her childhood home, still perched in the same Philadelphia neighborhood, frozen in time. She remembers her bedroom reimagined as a crafting space, while her brother, once so ambitious, struggles between dreams and reality. As she drives to another family dinner, the weight of her one-bedroom sanctuary feels both liberating and suffocating. Isn't it ironic how her meticulously curated apartment, a space breathed into life through countless hours of hard work, feels distant now? Hardwood floors and high, flooding windows seemed perfect until they cast shadows of her family's unresolved issues. Her guardians had visited only twice since she moved there, their judgments cloaked in tight smiles, leaving Samantha yearning for validation. At the dinner table, the atmosphere thickens. The conversation flows easily until her mother drops the heavy anchor. Amanda's roommate troubles. "You heard about Amanda, right, Samantha?" her mother asks, concern mingling with the usual ambition of fixing family issues. The tightening in her chest returns as she recounts the chaotic drama, yet Samantha remains cautious, already bracing for the inevitable suggestions. Dad's fork clinks down with authority. "She has until the end of the month," he states simply, as if discussing the season's first frost. Her dreams of independence feel miles away, and she knows what's coming next. "Your brother will live in your apartment." Did he really just say that? Samantha stares at her plate. Their voices murmur, the tension simmering as Amanda, that equal part of her past and present, pulls her brother into the same web of family obligations. "I will barely be there, Maddie. It's just temporary, I swear." That charming smile, the same one that made parental rules seem non-existent, beckons Samantha, but her heart tightens further. Through her clenched jaw, she finally speaks, "I don't have room for a cat." Wouldn't it be easier to just let it all happen? To give in to the family's expectations? Or does she finally carve out her own space, her own identity? With every passing second, her resolve wavers. She debates if she can still be the responsible brother or if it's time to break free from old patterns. As the afternoon light streamed through the sheer curtains, illuminating the cluttered countertops, Samantha felt a weight in her chest. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down to see a text from her mom. "Are you bringing Amanda to dinner? We need to talk about your future." The air thickened, her heart pounding with the pressure of expectation. In that moment, could she finally speak her truth, or would fear choke her voice yet again? Was this the moment to break free, or would she be trapped by family dynamics once more? Driving through the familiar streets of Philadelphia, the skyline shimmering against the dusk, Samantha replayed the dinner in her mind. Her family had made decisions that didn't include her, each comment a careful cut, each suggestion a reminder of her role. She had toiled her way through dinner, swallowing bites of roast chicken as her brother spilled out plans for Amanda, the brother who artfully transformed Samantha's life into a litany of borrowed belongings and half-hearted apologies. Amanda, the brother who once returned Samantha's favorite sweater with a stain and barely touched her college application essay. The brother cycling through jobs like she was changing outfits. The barista who couldn't handle the coffee shop chaos. The gallery assistant who tired after standing too long. The retail worker overrun by entitled customers. Now, Amanda was selling handmade jewelry, calling it her true passion, as fleeting as her previous dreams of photography and screenwriting. Samantha pulled into her assigned parking space, letting out a long breath. Her therapist would be proud. 5 counts in, hold for 5, 5 counts out. The lobby of her apartment building welcomed her with its rustic charm. Mrs. Gallagher, her neighbor, caught her gaze, her little Yorkie balanced on her hip. "Long day, dear?" she asked, eyebrows raised. "Family dinner," Samantha replied. Mrs. Gallagher nodded knowingly, as if the mere mention of family summed up her entire world. Stepping into her apartment, the lights flickered on, revealing a space that suddenly felt too small. Where would Amanda fit? The pull-out couch crammed into her home office calculatedly squeezed out. Sam inventoried her life with each step: an open kitchen that barely accommodated cooking, a bathroom host to her meticulously organized skincare products, a bedroom just big enough for her queen bed and dresser, and a living room decorated with books and Netflix. Adding Amanda would spill her life all over the floor like a gallon of water into a pint glass. Impossible without chaos. With thoughts swirling, she grabbed her phone and dialed Jasmine, her best friend since sophomore year of college. "They did what?" Jasmine gasped as Samantha set the scene. "Your family didn't even ask you?" Samantha could picture her friend pacing in her Lincoln Park apartment, hands animated, voice rising with every word. "And they rented a trailer? For your brother? Just like that?" Samantha felt a mix of anger and despair heating her blood. "Yes, next Sunday, just like that," she muttered, the weight of it all pressing down hard. With chance of, "Your brother will live in your apartment." The decision had been made without her. The walls were closing in, her independence fading faster than she could grasp. This was more than just about space. It was about identity. Would she finally stand her ground, or slip back into the role her family had written for her? The clock was ticking, and the next family dinner would either redefine her life or trap her in the cage of expectations once more. Jasmine paused, and the silence hung heavy in the air. "Just tell them no." Her words sliced through the tension, simple and brimming with clarity. 2 letters, 1 syllable. "But my guardians don't hear no," I thought, sinking into the worn cushions of my couch. "They never have." "Samantha, you're 30. You pay your own rent. You owe your brother nothing. This is more than presumptuous. It's insane." She was right, no doubt, but years of family conditioning are like chains, stubborn and rusted. When the call ended, I dialed my guardians. Twice, Mom sent me to voicemail like an unwelcome guest. Finally, a text came through. They were absorbed in a movie and would talk tomorrow. So, I typed out a plea. "Hey, I think we need to go over this apartment situation more. My place is too small." "Don't worry," Mom replied. "It'll be cozy. Brother bonding time." Brother bonding? I scoffed, remembering Amanda blaring her guitar at 3 a.m. during finals week. The same Amanda who thought wearing headphones was optional during reality TV marathons. Next, I texted Amanda directly. "I know you're in a tight spot, but my apartment is really too small for 2 people. Mom and Dad already said it's fine." My heart sank. "Do not be selfish, Maddie. It's just for a little while." "How long is a little while?" "Amanda, what about your cat? Whiskers is super chill. You won't even notice him." But I did notice. "I can't have a cat here. No space for a litter box or fur all over everything." "Whatever. Mom said it would be fine," she shot back, and that was it. Sleepless and restless, I tossed and turned in the grip of anxiety. I could see my carefully constructed life slowly dismantled, piece by piece. The project deadline at work loomed larger, a mountain I could no longer climb alongside this swirling family drama. What would it take to reclaim my life? The weight of expectation pressed down like a storm cloud, dark and suffocating. Would I stand my ground, or let my identity dissolve into the background once more? The clock was ticking. Samantha stood in her childhood kitchen, wrapped in the sweet scent of vanilla and freshly baked cookies. The laughter of her siblings danced through the air, a comforting soundtrack to her memories. But beneath that warmth lingered an invisible weight. The pressure to be perfect, to conform to family expectations, felt like a tight corset, squeezing her sense of self. She stirred the batter, each circular motion echoing her longing for freedom, a yearning to break away from the chains of obligation that bound her. Fast forward to the present, where Samantha found herself barely holding it together. Her team at Vertex Creative was counting on her designs for a crucial healthcare presentation. The concept boards were almost ready, but the looming deadline felt more like a mountain than a hill. "You seem off," her boss, Catherine, observed one day, her eyes piercing. Samantha's mind was a tangled mess. "Just some personal stuff," she replied, hoping to shield the chaos back home. But could she manage it all? The nagging doubt gnawed at her. By Wednesday, the stress spiraled into a relentless headache. Catherine, a powerhouse who had paved her way in a male-dominated industry, could sense the turmoil. "Your work shouldn't suffer because of family drama," she advised, a firm yet caring tone resonating in Samantha's mind. Those words echoed late at night, mixing with her swirling thoughts. What did she need to handle? By morning, clarity washed over her. The Sunday family dinner had unleashed a tsunami of expectations, sending 17 texts from her mother detailing Amanda's supposed needs in the apartment. "Samantha, you're 30. You owe your brother nothing," her friend had said, slicing through the fog of obligation with brutal honesty. She desperately needed to reclaim her life. As Samantha stared at her phone, a familiar surge of determination rose within her. Why was it always her responsibilities taking the back seat? The thought of losing her identity to family pressures ignited a fire in her gut. She took a deep breath, envisioning the life she wanted, one where her voice wasn't muffled. "Enough is enough," she whispered to herself. It was time to stand her ground against the storm. Would she rise to the occasion, or would she dissolve again into that role her family had scripted? The clock was ticking, but so was the resolve to forge her path. And just like that, Samantha began drafting a message, one that would signal her shift from obligation to independence. What if she stopped appeasing and started asserting? Her heart raced at the thought. The weight began to lift as she typed, each keypress a declaration. She was ready to carve out her own identity. Would her family understand? Only one way to find out. By Tuesday, my father had emailed a spreadsheet of Amanda's furniture with dimensions, asking which pieces would fit in my place. The correct answer was none, but that detail seemed irrelevant to them. I decided to approach the building management about visitor policies, hoping for some bureaucratic rule that would save me. Richard Gomez, the building manager, was arranging maintenance schedules in the small office off the lobby when I knocked. "Miss Mason, what can I do for you?" he asked, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I settled in, explaining my predicament as professionally as possible. "So, officially, how long can guests stay before they need to be on the lease?" Richard adjusted his glasses. "Technically, visitors should not stay more than 14 consecutive days without being added to the lease, but enforcement is complaint-based." He leaned forward. "Is your guest going to be disruptive?" I considered my brother's history potentially. He nodded knowingly. "Well, adding someone to the lease requires management approval, income verification, and an additional security deposit, and we would need to convert your lease from a one-bedroom to a two-bedroom rate." The information was useful, though not as immediately helpful as I had hoped. I thanked Richard and headed for the elevator, deep in thought. As the doors opened on the 4th floor, I nearly collided with a tall man carrying a moving box. "Sorry about that," he said, stepping back. The box balanced precariously in his arms. "No problem," I replied automatically, reaching out to stabilize the wobbling container. "Moving in?" He nodded, adjusting his grip. 4E just transferred here for work." 4E was directly across from my apartment. 4. "I am your neighbor then, Samantha Mason." I offered my hand after he set the box down. "Marcus Reynolds," he replied, shaking it. "Any tips for a Philadelphia newcomer?" Something about his direct gaze and easy smile made me pause. "Do you like deep dish pizza?" I think I am just going to have to let this play out differently than they expect. "How so?" "I am considering not being here when they arrive on Sunday." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That is certainly one approach. Would it help, though?" I shrugged. "Probably not long-term, but it might make the point that they cannot steamroll me." He nodded thoughtfully. "In my line of work, we talk a lot about security systems and protocols, but the most important security measure is always psychological, setting clear boundaries and consequences. The conversation shifted to other topics, but that phrase stuck with me: clear boundaries and consequences. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work deadlines and increasing anxiety. My presentation for the healthcare client went well, but I barely registered Catherine's approving nod as the clients left. My mind was too full of Sunday's approaching confrontation. Thursday night brought a panic attack, my first in over a year. I sat on my bathroom floor at 2:00 in the morning, counting my breaths and trying to slow my racing heart. The familiar thoughts circled like vultures. I am a bad daughter. I am a bad brother. I should just go along with it. It would only be temporary. Why am I making this so difficult? My therapy session on Friday was a lifeline. Dr. Lillian Chen had been helping me work through my people-pleasing tendencies for nearly a year. What would happen if you simply said no? She asked after I recounted the week's developments. They would ignore it. They would still show up with her things. And then I would feel forced to let them in. Would you, though? She pressed gently. Are they physically stronger than you? Do they have a key to your apartment? No, but the trail of implications hung in the air between us. Samantha, you have been giving your power away to your family for years. They are used to you accommodating their wishes regardless of your own needs. The only way to change that dynamic is to change your behavior. She made it sound so simple. The key insight came later that evening as I was leaving my building and saw Marcus testing a small security camera by his door. He explained it was a simple motion-activated model that sent alerts to his phone. Extra security for the new place, he explained. Occupational habit. As I nodded politely, the plan crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. I invited Marcus for coffee the next morning. The local cafe, 2 blocks from our building, had become a weekend ritual for me. Their cardamom lattes and almond croissants, a necessary indulgence. He arrived precisely on time, dressed casually in jeans and a gray Henley. Something about his measured movements suggested military background, though he had not mentioned it. Thanks for meeting me, I said after we had settled at a corner table. I have an unusual favor to ask. His expression remained neutral, waiting for me to continue. Remember my family situation? I explained my plan, watching his face for signs of judgment or reluctance. Instead, I saw thoughtful consideration. So, you want me to pretend to be your roommate when they arrive? He clarified. Yes, just answer the door, act confused about who they are, and stall until I get there. What is your end goal? He asked, stirring his coffee methodically. The question caught me off guard. My end goal? To not have my brother move in? To make my guardians respect my boundaries? To finally be seen as an adult with agency over my own living space? I want them to understand they cannot make decisions about my life without consulting me, I said finally. I want them to see me as an independent adult, not just an extension of the family unit available to solve everyone's problems. Marcus nodded slowly. Makes sense. But why not just change your locks and not answer the door? Because this has to stop for good, I explained. If I just avoid them, they will try again. I need to confront the pattern, not just this specific instance. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. You know, in security, we sometimes create controlled scenarios to test systems, show vulnerabilities in a managed way before real threats exploit them. Exactly. I seized on the comparison. This is a controlled test of my family boundaries. He considered for another moment, then nodded. I am in, but we should have a signal system, and you should move anything valuable or private out of common areas just in case. We spent the next hour developing our strategy, exchanging phone numbers and establishing protocols like we were planning a military operation. The focused planning calmed my nerves considerably. As we walked back to our building, I felt compelled to ask, "Why are you helping me? We barely know each other." Marcus shrugged. I have 5 siblings and guardians who still try to dictate my career choices. I get it. Plus, I believe in the right to control access to your own space. It is literally my job. His simple solidarity meant more than I could express. Back in my apartment, I began preparations. First, I packed a small overnight bag with essentials, planning to stay at Jasmine's Saturday night. Then, I methodically went through my space, securing important documents, moving sentimental items to my bedroom, and clearing enough floor space that my guardians would see exactly how small the apartment really was. Marcus came over that evening to install a spare security camera he had, positioning it to cover my entryway and living room. He showed me how to access the feed from my phone and set up motion alerts. This is probably overkill. I apologized, suddenly feeling foolish. In my experience, he said, adjusting the angle, preparation is never wasted effort, even if you do not need all the contingencies. That night, I sent one final text to my family group chat. I will not be available Sunday morning. Please do not come to my apartment with Amanda's things. We need to talk about this before any moving plans are set in stone. The replies flooded in. Mom, we've already rented the trailer. Samantha, don't be difficult. Dad, we'll be there by 11. Amanda can't wait to be roomies again, just like old times. They didn't hear me. Or maybe they just didn't care. The same old pattern that had defined our family for years. As I read their messages, a strange calm washed over me. I was done being the accommodating daughter, the reliable brother, the family fixer. Sunday would be different. Saturday night, I had dinner with Marcus in his apartment. He whipped up a simple pasta dish. His place was minimal but cozy, with framed maps and shelves filled with history books. Are you nervous about tomorrow? He asked as we finished eating. Less than I expected, I replied. More determined than anything. Good. Determination gets results. Anxiety just clouds judgment. We went over the plan one last time before I headed to Jasmine's for the night. My phone was set to receive alerts from the security camera. Marcus would be ready by 10:30 o'clock Sunday morning, just in time for my family's 11 hours arrival. As I drifted off on Jasmine's couch, I wondered if I was overreacting. But then I remembered my mother's dismissive tone, my father's presumptuous planning, and Amanda's entitled expectations. No, this was the response the situation warranted. For once, I would write the script instead of just playing my assigned role. Sunday morning broke bright and clear, the kind of perfect autumn day that usually had me planning a walk along the lakefront. Instead, I found myself in a different cafe, 6 blocks from my apartment, nursing an Americano and watching the security app on my phone. Jasmine had offered to come with me, but this was something I needed to handle alone. Just as I was settling into my thoughts, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. My heart raced. You deserve to know the truth about your mother and me. Meet me at the old oak tree tomorrow at noon. The air thickened with tension. What truth? My mind raced with possibilities. This unexpected revelation forced me to confront not just my family's past, but my own future. I felt a fierce determination ignite within me. I had to reclaim my narrative. The rain scent wafted through the cafe, mingling with the aroma of coffee. I could almost hear the leaves rustle outside, whispering secrets of their own. What did this mean for me? For my family? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was my chance to break free from the chains of expectation. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, but inside, it felt like a brewing storm. Samantha's heart raced as the day she had been preparing for approached. She waited, alone and determined, in her cozy apartment. Outside, the scent of rain mingled with the earthy aroma of the city, a stark contrast to the tension building within her. At 10:15, her phone buzzed with texts from her mom, her dad, and her brother Amanda. We're on our way, her mother texted, each message grinding against Samantha's resolve. Shouldn't they take a hint that she was done playing the role they expected of her? She didn't respond. Not yet. At 10:40, Marcus, her ally in this bold act of defiance, settled onto her couch. She watched him through the security app, appreciating his calm as he waved at the camera, a silent promise that they would take back control. The minutes ticked by as the messages from her family piled up. When her mother texted about parking and Amanda buzzed her apartment, they expected access to her life like it was their right. But today, Samantha was ready for the truth, and she would not back down. At 11:03, the doorbell rang. The sound cut through her resolve like a knife. The ringing morphed into a reminder of every negotiation she'd avoided, the expectation she'd carried like heavy stones in her pockets. Marcus answered the door while Samantha held her breath, watching through the camera feed. "This is apartment 4F, he said with a steady voice. "No, Samantha isn't here right now. Who is this?" As her guardians exchanged puzzled looks, Samantha's heart raced with anticipation. They were face to face with their assumptions. Marcus was unwavering. Moving her brother in? There's been a mistake. Samantha smiled to herself, a flicker of freedom igniting within her. She was ready to reclaim her narrative. The weight of the moment hung thick in the air as she envisioned the face-off to come. Would they finally see her? Would they understand? Samantha's resolve crystallized. Today was not just about her family's arrival. It was about her standing tall amidst their chaos. She had fought long and hard for her freedom, and now the rain outside mirrored the cleansing she felt inside. The storm was far from over, but it was her turn now, to write her story. Samantha was alone, or at least that's what she'd convinced herself. "No, we've been roommates since I moved to Philadelphia," Marcus chimed in, his voice steady, masking the swirling storm beneath. "Almost a year now. Put that doubt to rest, right?" But the disbelief on her father's face said it all. "That's impossible," he blustered. "She never mentioned a roommate." "Dude," Marcus frowned, concern etching deeper lines on his forehead. "There's clearly been a miscommunication. No space for anyone else here." He gestured toward the 2 bedrooms, a small lie they'd woven together to keep her guardians at bay. "Where is Samantha?" her mother demanded, frustration oozing as she tried to peer past Marcus into the apartment. "She had a meeting this morning," he replied, keeping his cool. "You're welcome to wait in the lobby." As Marcus held the line, panic was creeping into Samantha's phone. Texts flooded in from Amanda and her guardians. "Samantha, there's a man in your apartment. What is going on? Call us immediately." Each ping tightened the knot in her stomach. 10 more minutes ticked by, full of swirling tension. Watching the security feed, she steeled herself. Finally, she texted back, "I'm on my way home now. Please wait in the lobby." Gathering her things, she felt a surprising steadiness wash over her. The time for dodging this confrontation was over. 8 blocks stretched ahead, each step a mantra of clarity, rehearsing her words in her mind. No accusations. No apologies. Direct. Firm. As she turned the corner to her building, unease washed over her. They hadn't waited as asked. Her family stood on the sidewalk, Amanda leaning against her car while her guardians paced beside the rented trailer hitched to Dad's SUV. It was packed to the brim with furniture and boxes, an offensive symbol of their presumptions. "Mom spotted me first." "Samantha," she exclaimed, rushing toward her with an unnerving mix of relief and irritation. "What's going on? Who is that man in your apartment?" Samantha's heart raced as she scrolled through her phone, each notification a chilling reminder of the family drama waiting outside her door. Marcus shot her a worried glance, his brow furrowed in concern, amplifying the tension that hung thick in the air. The muffled voices of her guardians grew louder, their frustration spilling over into urgent whispers, each syllable tightening the knot in her stomach. Could she really keep them from discovering the truth? Just then, the front door creaked ominously, foreshadowing the inevitable collision of worlds. Was she ready to confront them head-on? Would they finally see her for who she truly was? An electric mix of fear and resolve surged through Samantha. Today wasn't just about their arrival. It was about her standing strong amid their chaos. She had fought long and hard for her freedom, and now the rain outside mirrored the cleansing she felt inside. The storm was far from over, but it was her turn now to write her story. I stopped a few feet away, creating deliberate space between us. "That is Marcus," I said calmly. "He lives in the building." "He said he lives with you," Dad interjected, confusion evident. "Is he your boyfriend? Why would you keep that from us?" Amanda pushed off from her car. Hello. What about me? Where am I supposed to go? All my stuff is packed." Several residents entered and exited the building, glancing curiously at our sidewalk drama. Good. Witnesses might help moderate my family's reactions. "No one is moving in with me today," I said clearly. "I told you this multiple times this week. You chose not to listen." "But we already rented the trailer," Mom protested, gesturing at the packed vehicle. "Everything is ready." "That was your choice," I replied. "You made these plans without consulting me. You assumed I would go along with it as I always have, but not this time." My father's face flushed. "Is this because of that man upstairs? Has he turned you against your family?" The accusation was so absurd, I almost laughed. "No, Dad. This is because for 30 years, you and Mom have made decisions about my life without my input. You have volunteered my time, my space, and my resources without asking. You have prioritized Amanda's needs over mine consistently, and I have let you because I wanted your approval. But I am done with that pattern." Amanda's eyes welled with tears. "Right on cue. I cannot believe you would leave me homeless, Maddie. Where am I supposed to go?" "The same place anyone else goes when they need housing," I said not unkindly. "You find an apartment you can afford. You get roommates through proper channels. You budget and plan." "She is your brother," Mom hissed, stepping closer. "Family helps family." I stood my ground. Yes, they do. But help is not the same as enabling. And it is not help if it is demanded rather than requested. A small crowd of neighbors had gathered at a discreet distance, pretending not to listen while obviously absorbing every word. I turned to address my guardians directly. "I would like you both to come upstairs so we can talk privately." I said, "Amanda, you should call Brittany. Did not she offer you her spare room last month?" Amanda's surprise confirmed my guess. We had the same social circles in secondary school, and I still saw occasional updates through mutual friends. Brittany had mentioned having a room available during the brief conversation we had at a mutual friend's birthday party. "How did you know about that?" she asked. "I pay attention," I replied simply. My guardians followed me silently to the elevator. The fight temporarily drained from them. Marcus texted that he would clear out to give us privacy, but I asked him to stay. His presence would help keep the conversation productive. The real confrontation was just beginning. The elevator ride to the 4th floor was silent and tense. My mother stared fixedly at the floor numbers as they lit up while my father repeatedly checked his watch as if time itself was inconveniencing him. When we entered my apartment, Marcus was waiting in the living room. His posture relaxed but alert. I made quick introductions. "Mom, Dad, this is Marcus Reynolds, my neighbor from across the hall. Marcus, these are my guardians, Ellen and Robert Mason." Handshakes were exchanged with palpable reluctance. "Could we speak privately?" my mother asked pointedly, glancing at Marcus. "Marcus can stay," I said firmly. "He has been kind enough to help me with this situation." "By pretending to live here," my father challenged. By lying to us, Marcus met his gaze evenly by respecting Samantha's boundaries when others would not. The blunt assessment hung in the air. I gestured toward my small living room. "Please sit down. We need to talk about what happened here today and, more importantly, why it happened." My guardians perched uncomfortably on my couch. I took the armchair while Marcus leaned against the kitchen counter, present but giving us space. For 30 minutes I spoke more honestly to my guardians than I had in years. I explained how their pattern of making decisions for me had eroded my autonomy and self-confidence, how their consistent prioritization of Amanda's needs had taught me my feelings were secondary, how their dismissal of my objections about the apartment situation was the breaking point in a lifetime of similar dismissals. To my surprise, they actually listened. Perhaps it was the shock of the morning's events, or the presence of an outsider, or simply the fact that I was speaking with a conviction they had rarely witnessed. When I finished, my mother spoke first. "We thought we were helping," she said quietly. "We never meant to make you feel less important." "I know," I acknowledged, "but impact matters more than intent, and the impact has been significant." My father cleared his throat. "The trailer rental is non-refundable," he noted, his practical nature emerging even in crisis. "I suggest you use it to take Amanda's things to storage," I replied. "Or to Brittany's. If that option works out," a text alert sounded. My mother checked her phone. "Amanda says Brittany can take her for 2 months while she figures things out," she reported, her tone suggesting this was a poor substitute for my apartment. "That is good news," I said sincerely. "I hope she takes advantage of the opportunity." "So, that is it?" My father asked, an edge to his voice. "You just decide family does not matter anymore." I leaned forward, meeting his gaze directly. Family matters enormously. That is why relationships within families need to be based on mutual respect, not obligation or guilt. I love you both. I love Amanda. But loving someone does not mean letting them make decisions about your life without your consent. My mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I thought we were close. I thought you would want to help your brother." "We can be close without being inshed," I said gently. "I am happy to help Amanda in ways that work for both of us. But moving her into my apartment without discussion was never going to be one of those ways." A tense silence settled over the room. Marcus quietly excused himself to the kitchen, giving us the illusion of privacy while remaining supportive through his presence. Finally, my father stood. "We should check on Amanda," he said stiffly, "and deal with the trailer." I nodded, rising as well. "I think that is best. Will you come to dinner next month?" my mother asked, vulnerability replacing her usual certainty. "Yes," I said, "but things will be different going forward. I need you to respect my boundaries, or I will need to create distance to protect them." They left with awkward hugs and lingering tension. Through my window, I watched them rejoin Amanda on the sidewalk. The animated conversation suggested she was not taking the change in plans well. Eventually, they all got into their respective vehicles and drove away, the half-empty trailer rattling behind my father's SUV. Marcus emerged from the kitchen. "That went better than expected," he observed. The relief hit me suddenly, and I sank onto my couch. Did it? I cannot tell if anything actually changed. He sat beside me, careful to maintain appropriate distance. Change takes time, but you stood your ground. That is the critical first step. As the adrenaline ebbed, exhaustion took its place. I had been preparing for this confrontation all week, and now that it was over, I felt drained. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "I could not have done this without your help." His smile was warm and genuine. "Yes, you could have, but I am glad you did not have to." The silent apartment felt like my own again, a sanctuary rather than contested territory. For the first time in days, I could breathe freely within its walls. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "Thanks for nothing." The soft buzz of her phone broke through the stillness. Samantha stared at the screen. Just 3 words. "I miss you." Her heart did a somersault. Those simple words ignited a storm of conflicting emotions, a warmth that felt so familiar yet so dangerous. Memories of laughter and family dinners flooded her mind, wrapping around her like a comforter that was now too tight. The room around her felt like a museum, every box packed with memories, a stark reminder of the ties she was fighting to redefine. Could her newfound boundaries coexist with this longing for connection? That message left her questioning everything she thought she had achieved. The battle for independence began to feel like a tightrope walk, teetering between love and the need for respect. Days passed in eerie silence. No calls from her guardians. No text volleys with her brother. The air was thick with the weight of change. Samantha found solace in the routine that had become her shield. Work kept her afloat. Catherine noticed it too. "You seem more focused lately." A compliment wrapped in validation felt refreshing. In this cocoon of newfound strength, she formed a steady friendship with Marcus. Dinner conversations turned into movie nights, a welcome escape from her chaotic familial ties. He brought a calmness that draped over her like a cozy blanket. Yet every laugh shared was tinged with the bittersweet knowledge of what lay unresolved. Finally, her weekly therapy session with Dr. Chen offered a safe harbor for her emotions to unravel. "How do you feel about how things unfolded?" Dr. Chen asked, her voice steady and kind. "Lighter," Samantha admitted, the truth spilling out like rain after a dry spell. "Like I've shed this invisible weight, but sad, too. I wish it hadn't come to this." In the depths of her struggle, Samantha discovered that liberation didn't eliminate longing. It reshaped it. As she navigated this intricate dance of boundaries and affection, she learned that vulnerability could coexist with strength. The path to finding herself was not a straight line, but a beautiful tangle of growth, heartache, and the quiet understanding that love isn't always about proximity. Would she choose distance to protect her peace, or would her heart pull her back into the family fold? The answer lay in the balance of her evolving identity, drifting like leaves in the autumn breeze, caught between the past and a future yet to unfold. The clinking of coffee cups filled the air, mingling with a nervous tension. Samantha's heart raced. She could see the wavering in her mother's eyes, the unspoken worries hanging between them like a fragile thread. What had her mother been preparing to say? Was this the moment everything would change, or would it only deepen the chasm? The weight of years lost pressed down on Samantha's chest, an aching reminder of what was at stake. She had to know, but was she ready to hear the truth? Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Both feelings can coexist. Setting boundaries often brings relief alongside grief for the relationship we wished we had. They spent the session exploring healthier ways to engage with her family, establishing guidelines that would protect Samantha's autonomy while allowing for meaningful connection. The silence from her family broke on the 10th day with a text from her mother, asking if they could meet for coffee. They chose a cafe halfway between Samantha's apartment and their home. As she entered, she noticed her mother looked older, the lines around her eyes more pronounced. They exchanged awkward pleasantries before her mother addressed the elephant in the room. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," she began hesitantly, "about us making decisions for you without asking." Samantha nodded, waiting for her to continue. "Your father and I always thought we were doing what was best for both of you girls, but I can see now that I often assumed what was best without actually asking you." The admission clearly cost her something. Samantha's mother rarely acknowledged mistakes. "I appreciate you saying that," Samantha replied carefully. "It means a lot to hear you recognize the pattern." Her mother reached for her coffee cup, then set it down untouched. "Amanda is settled at Brittany's for now. They've worked out a rent arrangement." "That's good news," Samantha said sincerely. "How is she doing?" Her mother sighed, anger flickering in her eyes. "Mostly at you, but some at us too. I think she expected us to fix this somehow." The familiar guilt stirred within Samantha, but she recognized it now for what it was, a conditioned response to taking responsibility for others' feelings. "She will work through it," Samantha said. "This is an opportunity for her to develop more independence." Her mother looked skeptical, but nodded. "Your father wanted me to ask, would you consider coming to dinner on Sunday? Just to talk? All of us, including Amanda." Samantha considered the invitation. Would this be a chance for healing, or would it open old wounds? The answer hung in the air, heavy with possibility. The old Samantha would have agreed immediately, eager to smooth things over. The new Samantha needed more information. "What are your expectations for this dinner?" I asked directly. She seemed taken back by the question. "Just family time. Reconnecting. And Amanda, will she be expecting an apology from me, or another discussion about her living situation?" My mother flushed slightly. "I cannot control what Amanda expects." "No, but you can set the tone as guardians. This dinner needs to be about rebuilding trust, not pressuring me to change my mind." To my surprise, she nodded. "I will make that clear to everyone. No pressure, just conversation." We parted with a tentative hug, the first step on a long road to a healthier relationship. That Sunday's dinner was awkward but necessary. Amanda barely spoke to me, responding in monosyllables when I attempted conversation. My father was stiffly polite, clearly unsure of his footing in this new family dynamic. My mother tried too hard, filling silences with nervous chatter about neighbors and relatives. But we got through it, and the next one, and the one after that. Slowly, incrementally, things began to shift. My guardian started asking before making assumptions. Amanda found another roommate situation through Brittany's connections and gradually resumed normal communication with me. At work, my newfound assertiveness translated to professional growth. I began speaking up more in meetings, advocating for my design concepts rather than deferring to louder voices. Catherine noticed, promoting me to senior designer with a meaningful raise. My friendship with Marcus deepened as autumn turned to winter. We explored Philadelphia together on weekends, discovering hidden architectural gems and neighborhood restaurants. When he asked me to dinner at an upscale restaurant near the river, the shift from friendship to something more felt natural and unhurried. 6 weeks after the confrontation, Amanda asked if we could meet for coffee. She arrived at the cafe looking more mature somehow, her usually elaborate makeup toned down, her clothing more practical than fashionable. "So," she began after ordering. "I have been thinking about what happened." I nodded, giving her space to continue. "At first, I was just really angry," she admitted. "I thought you were being selfish and mean. But then I started therapy." Brittany suggested it. Actually, his steady presence a reminder of how this journey had begun. My guardians welcomed him warmly, having long since forgiven his role in the apartment confrontation. Amanda brought her new roommate, a sensible graduate student who seemed to be a stabilizing influence. Looking around the table at my imperfect evolving family, I felt a profound gratitude. The painful confrontation had been necessary to break the old patterns and create space for something healthier to grow. Later that night, sitting with Marcus on my couch in my still blissfully single-occupancy apartment, I reflected on the journey. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "The way things unfolded that day." I considered the question carefully. No, I decided. It was messy and uncomfortable, but necessary. Sometimes you need to disrupt the system to reset it. He nodded, understanding as always. In security, we call that a controlled breach. Sometimes you have to break something to make it stronger. As the new year approached, I realized how much had changed. In just a few months, I had found my voice, not just with my family, but in all areas of my life. I had learned that true love, whether familial or romantic, respects boundaries rather than ignoring them. I had discovered that standing up for myself did not mean losing connection with others, but rather created the foundation for more authentic relationships. The journey had not been easy, and it was far from over. Old patterns still emerged occasionally, requiring conscious effort to redirect, but the direction was clear now, the path illuminated by hard-won wisdom. Have you ever had to take a difficult stand with family to protect your own boundaries? I would love to hear your stories in the comments. Sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most meaningful growth. If this story resonated with you, Please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more reflections on family dynamics and personal growth. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. In the soft glow of the fading sunset, Samantha stands defiantly in her childhood home. The scent of old wood and fading memories swirls around her. The air feels heavy with unspoken words. Finally, she asserts her boundaries to her family. Each word is a release of years of pent-up emotions, echoing in the silence. Can you feel the tension? Her voice, once timid, now resonates with strength. Tears mix with the laughter of her younger self, a bittersweet reminder of her journey. This moment defines her, freedom wrapped in the warmth of self-acceptance. As she speaks, the rain begins to fall, the scent of wet earth filling the air. The rustle of leaves outside mirrors her heart, beating with newfound courage. "I deserve respect," she declares, pausing to let the weight of her